And welcome to this week's art lesson. We're going to be working again on Van Gogh's painting of the sunflowers from 1888, and you're going to be working from your sunflower sketch that you drew last week. So this is just a reminder of the final pencil sketch that I drew last week to show the shading and the tones, different tones and highlights, and comparing it with the original painting that I was working from. So you're going to be working from your original sketch. Here you can see mine has no detailing or shading, and this is the start of where you need to begin your work for this week. So where you start to colour in is entirely up to you, it's your choice. I actually started on the outer leaves and the stem, and then I worked on the centre circles. I was trying to match up the colours as best I could, and I was conscious of the darker shaded parts, and I tried to make sure that my colouring reflected this. The next part was the centre, where the seeds are, so where that bit of detail is, and I tried to look closely at all the different shapes in there and where they were positioned to try and make it as accurate as possible. Then I started working on the top few petals, and obviously I kept looking back at the original picture, and because obviously some of those petals have darker shades in them, darker lines, markings, so I tried to make it as accurate as possible. I know that sometimes when you're working maybe with colouring in pencils, you might struggle with some of these different tones because you can't get the exact shade. Well, that's not a problem, just do the best that you can, because obviously there's different lots of different tones in there. Then I started to work on the rest of the top petals, working in exactly the same way as I did for the first lot of petals I did. Then the bottom petals were next, and I noticed there was quite a few markings on these petals, so I had to try and make sure that I included those as well with different tones. Then I started to work on the outer reddish part of the sunflower, again looking at the different tones and shading, because some of it even had bits of green added at the bottom, so I needed to make sure that I kept looking back at the picture to try and make it as well, pretty much identical if I could. On this part I went over the outline of the petals to emphasise the edges, and I added orange tones in to bring out some of the darker parts of the petals. So that was my evaluation really, because I realised that they didn't stand out maybe as much as I'd have liked. And when I looked more closely, some of them were more orange than brown. So this is really just a comparison from last week's pencil sketch to the final picture that I've coloured in for this week's assignment. And you need to still make sure that your shading is fairly accurate to the picture, so use your different colours to try and bring out the shadows and the different tones. So on this part, I mean, this is going to be an optional part of the task, but I used my same picture and I organised them into my version of Van Gogh's sunflowers painting. I mean, you could do this. You could photocopy the same image that you're going to finish with your coloured in sketch. You could copy it a couple of times, several times, and cut them out. And then you could arrange them as if they're all just sitting inside a vase. If you've worked on an iPad like I have, you can copy and paste the same image. You can even flip them over to face the same way, so it's more of a natural arrangement. But again, this is an optional extra. It'll be up to you whether you do this or not. But I know that some of you have given me such brilliant work that maybe you'd like a little bit of a challenge and think you'd like to have a go at this as well. So the task this week, using your pencil sketch from last week, carefully colour it in, thinking about the different tones and highlights in each part of the sunflower. So remember about the centre and the petals and the stems, all of them, they're not just block colours, they've got lots of different colours and tones in them. So look carefully, to make it as accurate as you can. So the optional extra, so this is what you don't have to do if you don't want to. You can arrange several copies of your coloured in sunflower sketch into a vase to look like Van Gogh's original sunflower painting. And I know some budding artists out there might want to have a go at that. As always, you need to finish by evaluating your work, whether it's a single sunflower you complete or an arrangement of several sunflowers in a vase. Remember, tell me about things you think you've done well. So it might be that you thought the shading was particularly good, that you got where there was bits of light, you managed to get that as well. Does it look like a 3D sunflower rather than the flat picture? You might think that those are the things you need to work on. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to receiving your completed work. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. And if you've got any questions, just message me.